So I want kids to know that. I want that girl that has to pay her mom, $100 every time she gets paid. Like, this is just building you to be able to thrive. Right now, you might think you're just like surviving, but if you use these things, you're going to beat out everyone else and you're going to be unstoppable.
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hey, welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life. Today, we get to meet Tara Zaluski. She is a driven, results-oriented leader who thrives on structured planning, high standards, and relentless focus. From overcoming personal adversity to building successful ventures, Tara brings a no-nonsense approach to leadership, accountability, and achieving ambitious goals. Get ready for candid insights, practical strategies, and a mindset that turns obstacles into opportunities. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I love hearing about the things that you're doing. So let's start off with a little bit of background, I guess, a little bit of how did you get started with this? Tell me a little bit about how you got into real estate investing specifically and doing what you're doing with low-income housing.
Yeah, so when I started, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do, to be completely honest. I had no direction after high school. I knew I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't know what really interested me. And it wasn't until I went to actually look at my own house. I was looking to purchase my own house, and I started looking at houses, and then I started seeing all these, because my budget wasn't huge, I was seeing all these houses that needed work, but I could see, what I could do to them and how I could make them something that everyone would want to live in. So it was like easy for me to look past the smells or the green carpets or, whatever was going on, wallpaper everywhere, and envisioning what it could be. And I just got so much enjoyment out of trying to find my own house that I was like, I think this is something I want to do, because I think I'm way too excited about going and looking at houses. So that's honestly how I got started and how I knew that it was something that I just really had a passion for and I enjoyed.
But you took it to that next level, right? A lot of people do that. I know people who are constantly looking in the real estate section. They're, on Zillow all the time. They're on whatever, and they fantasize about doing that. But you actually did it. And what do you think separates you from the wannabe people or the people who are just sort of in analysis paralysis?
Yeah, so I think honestly, at first I did take it slow. I wasn't sure if I could be a landlord, so I actually bought a duplex and I just had it for a few years before I decided, like, okay, I think I can do this. I also, that first house I bought, I ended up remodeling it from top to bottom, and it sold within I think a day, and we had like multiple offers. So that also gave me confidence, right? But it took the action behind it. Like, I did start and I took the action to do the things that I enjoyed and wanted to do. And then I started gaining confidence from that. So once those things happened and I would kind of tested the waters, I did just start taking action. I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. I had intended on doing it myself. And then when I told my brother my plan, he was like, I want to do this with you, so that's how it started. And it really is, just getting started. Do I think that you need some background, right? You need some where you're either going on podcasts or watching other people successfully do it and seeing how they're doing it. I do think you should definitely do a little due diligence, but I always push people and tell them, like, don't get stuck in that analysis paralysis, because you have to start somewhere, and imperfect action is better than no action, in my opinion, because you'll learn as you go along, right? And these things that you learn as you go along are going to be things that you're not going to probably read in a book or get from someone else. So you really have to start.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think if people who think that they can learn everything in advance, you just really can't. You just don't know what's going to come up. And once you figure it out, there's probably a YouTube video to help you with it. But
Absolutely. And I think of it just like would you wait for the perfect time to have a kid? Would you wait for the perfect time to get married? No, because there is no perfect time with anything in life. So,
yeah, that's the other point. But too, people are trying to second guess the economy, second guess the housing market. Like,
mhm.
okay, I know people who waited 8 years thinking, oh, we're just going to wait for this to happen and that to happen, prices to go down, interest rates to go down. Like, things keep marching on, and you just got to jump on the train whenever it goes by, right?
Well, yeah, and that makes me think too of if you think about it long enough, you can always come up with the reasons why you shouldn't do it.
Right.
And, the only thing that I've heard everyone say is their only regret is they wish they started sooner.
Absolutely true. That's absolutely true. So now you've gone from remodeling and taking care of your own homes, the things that you were either living in or your own private investments, and now it sounds like you're doing something much bigger and trying to help the community. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so we started with, as I said, just flipping, and then we started acquiring some rental properties. After doing that for a little while, we realized very quickly that we needed to have a good team in place. So, because we lost some money, so I'm not going to say this has been this perfect journey, right? It never is.
Yeah.
And we lost money on our second flip due to having bad contractors. And so we worked through those things, is what I'm saying. And we ended up training our own contractors and ensuring that they had integrity and that they were doing the work right and nothing was, being left behind a wall or not done right, So that's why we lost money too, essentially, because we knew we weren't going to put it on the market with the certain things that maybe other people wouldn't have noticed was wrong. So from there, and just that journey of doing the flips, starting to acquire rentals and things of that nature, we kept growing bigger and bigger, but we weren't feeling fulfilled at all. So we were like, what are we doing? We felt like we were getting further away from the things that we had done previously. And we wanted to really figure out, okay, like how do we get back there, but also know that we're following like our passions, our purpose in life. And it really took last year, for me anyways, of really evaluating that. And happy to say that the biggest thing for me was giving back, bringing value. How do I like help the community? So we are actually now getting into the high school in the community we're trying to revitalize, which is located in Mckeesport, Pennsylvania. And just being able to teach the kids the things that I didn't learn, and just trying to give them a better foundation to knowing like what is passive income, how can I create generational wealth and what does that take, down to the basics of, credit, budgeting, what are your specific goals? Because when I say generational wealth, a lot of people think you have to be a millionaire. But the thing I think about is meeting people in the place they're at, which could be my family's never owned a home. So, through that, we can teach you how to own a home and then you can pass that home down on to your next generation, right? So to me, that's generational wealth right there.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been working on more recently within this last year, like I said, and getting that figured out. And also just getting in the community itself, and asking them, like, what do you need? How can we bring value to you as individuals? And, then bring those experts in and start really trying to train these people up because ultimately what we're trying to do is change mindsets. And changing mindsets is very, very difficult, and it doesn't happen overnight. So we realize that this is going to be, a journey. And the other part of it is just for us, not only changing those mindsets, but making it simple enough so people can see, how to get there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's it. If you may not be passing wealth down from generation. You might be passing this like negative mindset or this
Mhm.
mindset that we can't do that. That's not who we are. That's for whatever, right? It's the one percenters, right? This disdain for people with money, but actually it's not so bad to have a little, and it's even better when you can share it and give it back to the community. That's fantastic. I definitely have to introduce you to Felicia Fro. She's her thing is money with a mission, and she has a similar mission, but in a different area. So maybe you can trade some secrets and get some great momentum going. So how is it going? How is this initiative going? Are you going into the schools and giving some training, or is this how does that all work?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we got into Mckeesport High School and we were able to do our, class on passive income for them and just trying to gauge, where are they at, what have they learned? Because actually the state had just passed a law this past spring that now a financial class is required in the high school.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when I was speaking with the teacher, she was even telling me, she's like, I don't have a curriculum on this. I'm just grabbing books and different things and thinking, what the kids would be interested in or what I can teach them. So, like, she doesn't even have a lot of direction on it. And that just showed me even more of this isn't just when I grew up, this is still an ongoing issue, within the schools that kids aren't being taught literally the life skills that they need to
Exactly.
succeed. And it's just, for me, I'm super passionate about it because I am an entrepreneur and I just want these kids to realize, because I know when I was in school, I felt like an outsider that I was doing something wrong because I wasn't interested in college. And the reason I wasn't interested is just because we're all different, and this was my path. I was meant to be an entrepreneur. So it would be nice if the schools wouldn't just push one thing, right? That you have to go to school to then graduate, then to go back to school and then graduate, this cycle, which is good for some people and for their needs, but it's not everyone, So that was like another thing I really wanted to talk to these kids and just figure out, like, what do you want to do? Not what your parents say, not what the school says, and all these things. Like, what do you want to do so that I can critique this and it actually brings value to all of you?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's so true. I mean, people graduate from 4 years, 8 years of college, and they still don't know how to balance a checkbook. Not that I don't think that's a thing anymore, but right, they don't understand how their money works, how they're going to keep from, should I pay this student loan versus this, or right? I mean, it's like, okay, now go get yourself into tons of debt. I mean, I don't have anything against college, but at the same time, it's not the only path. As you say, there are some great paths for other people whose minds might work a little differently, I mean, in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's trade schools, and that's, you can go into one of those, right, with a company, they'll pay for your schooling, which typically is only like a couple of years or something. And then you could go out of that not owing anything and start your own business. And even if you don't start your own business, most of those people are making over 100 grand a year, but you could build it and scale it to what you want, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's all about what, your goals are, your dreams are, not mine or anyone else's.
But yeah, understanding how money works. I mean, that's it's a language that a lot of people are never taught, no matter what they're right. So they get into business for themselves, and then they're like, oh, I'm making all this money. How come I don't actually have anything in my pocket? Because right, you don't invest it. You don't have your money working for you. You're just toiling and toiling and making, trying to make more and more income, as opposed to like passive income.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just reminded me too with what you just said is there's also people out there at the opposite end about maybe they know how to make money for themselves. Maybe they have passive income and all these things, but they spend so much and put themselves in debt so consistently that even though they're making millions of dollars, they're actually like poor.
Right. Exactly. It's not what you spend. I mean, not what you make, it's what you keep.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said all that to say that I think that's a fabulous gift that you're giving to these kids. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, oh, I wish my kid's school had that. I wish my school had that. It's, and even the fact that that's required in the curriculum now. I think that's fairly rare. I don't think that a lot of communities are requiring the kids know anything about money beyond 2 + 2 = 4, which I don't even know if they teach that now that there's calculators and computers and everything else. So yeah, I don't have kids, so I don't know what they're teaching them these days, but I just feel like, I was at the Pizza Hut or whatever, and the computers were down, and they just could not figure out how to give me my change back.
Yeah, I mean, and they changed it to Common Core math now, which my kids don't take because that's something I didn't want for them. I just don't understand a lot of it. Like, as this comedian said, like the old math worked. Like there was nothing wrong with it. Like why did we change it and make it this, like you said, 2 + 2, which should be so simple, and now you have to break it down into 10 different things on the sheet of paper when you get to the same answer, and you could have been there quicker.
Yeah. But okay, let's not get into a little
Yeah.
math detour. Let's But there is, when you're talking about construction and things like that too, if you can go in and you can quickly do your multiplication tables, you can much more easily figure out how much it's going to cost you to do such and such a renovation or things like that. So,
Yeah.
what's your favorite part of your role today, or the several hats that you're wearing? What's your favorite?
My favorite is getting to go into the schools now and getting to go into the community and help them, and just see the needs of the different ages and relating to them too, because these kids, there was one, for instance, she was like, yeah, I pay my mom like $100 a month or every couple weeks, like every time she gets paid, because her mom doesn't make enough money for them to survive. So, and I can relate to that. When I was 16, I was actually in an all girls home, which I chose to stay in, and chose to take 2 buses to school every day and 2 buses home and get up at 4:30 in the morning. And then I also had to have a job because I had to save for by the time I, hit 18 and was able to get my own place. So like these are the things that I want to teach these kids, now, so that even if you're not totally into it or you don't really know what it means, you're going to have that foundation that's going to set you up for success. Because there is going to come a point in time and you're going to say, oh, wait a minute, I remember like talking about this in school, and knowing how to get there quicker than I did. That's like the biggest thing for me, is that I just don't want it to take people as long. I want to share my failures and the things that I did wrong so you can get there quicker.
It sounds like what you did have, though, even though you might not have been going about it the most direct route, right? But it sounds like that you did always have goals. That you always had things that you were working toward. I mean, if you're saving at 16 for getting your own place at 18, right? That's a plan for the future. That's a goal. And I feel like, what a lot of people are missing.
I think a part of that for me, though, I will say too, is just some of us are put into, the way our life goes, I will say, changes who you are, right? So when you think those bad things happen to you, and like, why is this happening to me? And, you can get that victim mentality really easily, because you're also, we're talking at 16 years old, So I don't, those things shape me to who I am today. And I'm so glad I realized that, because it was easy for me even back then to be like, poor me.
Sure.
And it isn't poor you. It's a choice. You can either take these things that have happened and use them to your advantage, or you can take them and continue that mindset and mentality, which isn't going to get you anywhere, So I just
Yeah.
wanted to mention that, because it's easy for us to fall into that. And I just want everyone to know that everyone has bad stuff happen to them all the time. It's just, what are you going to do with it?
Right, absolutely. And you're right. It's you didn't know it at the time, but it was getting you prepared. It was just a class you had to take, right? It was just something that you had to go through in order to be the person that you are today.
Mhm.
And the victim mentality, right? There's nothing you can do about that, right? As soon as you cede your power and say, "Oh, the world is against me," or it's the man, I can't be doing, whatever, you give up your power, and
Yeah,
then where are you? But as soon as you
exactly.
say, like, okay, whatever, this is something I needed, whatever, or it's just something I'm living through, right? I say that sometimes. This is just something we just have to live through, and then come out the other side and be more of more of I don't know, more robust, more whatever. It's a tool that's going into the belt, and that's it.
Yeah, because I think that the more you accomplish, right, you go through these really tough times throughout your entire life, but that gives you confidence when you get through it and then you get through it again and you get through it again. You just can continue to grow and grow and grow because you know nothing's going to stop you. So I want kids to know that. I want that girl that has to pay her mom, $100 every time she gets paid. Like, this is just building you to be able to thrive. Right now you might think you're just like surviving, but if you use these things, you're going to beat out everyone else and you're going to be unstoppable. And the other part of that is it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter what your parents do. It doesn't matter if you went to college or not. I'm a prime example of, if you set your mind to it, you can accomplish anything you want. So that's the other big part of it. It was wanting people to see where I came from, what I dealt with, not because it's a poor me, not because I want you to feel bad for me. It's because I want you to know, like, it truly doesn't matter, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, one of my friends has a comment. Her thing is so what? Like, okay, yeah, you went through that. So what? Now let's move on, right? And that's exactly it. So what would you tell an adult person, an adult woman who's thinking about getting into the real estate field, but feels a little intimidated and feels a little bit like, oh, I don't know as much and I can't be well, I don't have the building background, or people are going to take advantage of me, or I don't know if I can stand up to a contractor when they're not treating me right, or things like that. Like, what kinds of advice would you give to someone who's kicking the tires and thinking about getting started?
I mean, the biggest thing is just get started because you're not going to learn, you're not going to be able to know how to navigate any of those situations until you do it. And also, don't look at failure as a bad thing. That's another thing about school that I don't like. It's always about you're supposed to get the good grades, you're not supposed to make mistakes. And in reality, that's not life. In life, if you're ever going to go, towards your dreams, towards your goals, it's going to be hard and you're going to fail over and over and over again. And that's the whole point. Use the failure so you can do it right the next time or do it better the next time. It's not a bad thing. And I think of Elon Musk because I learned that he actually, I guess with his employees, he has like a quota to where they have to fail so many times, whether it's like per week or per month. And if they don't fail that many times, then he gets rid of them. So like just look at that and think about that for a second. That tells you the richest man in the world, the most successful man in the world is saying, if you don't fail a bunch of times, I'm getting rid of you because I know that you're not going to be able to keep up with us and what his companies are doing, right? So I hope that's encouraging because literally I know none of us want to fail and it doesn't make us feel good, but it's such a good thing for you and for your future if you use it and then reflect and say, okay, now how can I do this better, or what do I need to change?
Absolutely, because if you're not failing, then it just means that you're doing things that you already know how to do, and that means you're not learning new things. And that's the idea of fail forward. I love that phrase because it's so true. Everything, like I think it's Brian Tracy says, all of the growth and all of the excitement and all the life is just outside your comfort zone. So you just need to like push. And yeah, are you going to fail? Okay, yeah, but it's only failure if you stop, right? If it's like, oh, the last thing I did didn't work, well, do the next thing and the next thing until it's not a failure anymore.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's only when you quit and give up is that's when you actually failed. And I would also say that the book Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book if you're looking to get into real estate or investing. Even just for basic life skills, I just think that book is, fantastic and it's such an easy read.
Yeah, exactly. And it does give you a new way of looking at things, right? Is this good debt or bad debt, right? This idea, I hear people all the time like, oh, I've got to pay off my this or that. And it's like, do you though? I mean, does that make sense? A friend of mine is going to inherit some money, and the first thing she wants to do with it is pay off her mortgage. And I said, what's your interest rate? And she said, oh, it's like 2.5%. I said, well, just saying, you might want to invest that money and use the 6 or 10 or whatever percent that you're going to get for return to pay your mortgage. I mean, but it's something that's been drilled into our heads that doesn't necessarily make sense. So I don't know. Well, I feel like our time is sort of racing away. I try to keep these episodes a little bit short so that people can digest them on their way to work. So I just want to know, is there anything that you wish I would have asked you or anything you want to make sure people take away that we haven't touched on?
I don't think there's anything we haven't touched on. I actually liked this because I think we kind of hit all of it, right? Talking about failure, talking about the analysis paralysis, how it doesn't matter where you come from, what you do, when you start, right? Maybe that's another thing. Like, it doesn't matter how old you are. Um, it's just about getting started. You can change your life any day, but it's what day are you going to choose? So that's even for me because I feel like I've just been on this long journey and I feel like it's taken me so long to get here. And why couldn't I have like known these things earlier? Or why couldn't have I started earlier? Because I've done all the things wrong. So yeah, I don't know. I think the biggest thing is just believing in yourself and knowing that you just have to get started because no matter, you're going to run into things all the time. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right because if you just, it's like, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, 20 years ago, but when's the next best time? Right now, right? And that's the same thing. Like you can don't spend another second bemoaning the fact that you didn't start or that you made a mistake or whatever, right? I mean, I did the same thing. Like, why didn't I wish I would have started sooner? I think everybody says that and feels that way, right? We're not perfect right out of the gate. There are things we need to learn and just accept that you've learned them and you've got to this, that's brought you to this point. Sometimes it's not obvious that we are evolving, right? You feel like, oh, I'm just where I was. But then when you look back, you're like, no, actually, I'm not right where I was. I have been moving up this ladder without maybe being conscious of it. So yeah, great points. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Tara, it was my pleasure. I'm so glad that you were able to make it. And thank you, listener, for listening. I want you to think right now about at least 5 people who you know who would benefit from all that Tara has shared, whether it's the inspiration of helping the community, whether it's the failing forward, whether it's the just do it sort of, let's get started today. No matter what you personally took away from this, think of 5 people you know who could benefit from these lessons and forward this episode to them. Tara will thank you, and I will thank you, and your friends will definitely thank you. And then be sure to join us next week.